My dear friends and sisters, salam, peace, blessings to you all. It is a genuine honor and a privilege to address this gathering today, and my thanks go to the IALRW Organizing Committee for this very kind invitation to speak. I have been asked to speak about current issues and concerns for religious freedom and interfaith dialogue, particularly with relevance to women. And I'm going to attempt to tie this in with the overall theme of the conference, which is raising our voices for change towards a sustainable world, in the hope that what I'm about to say can contribute in some way to the aim of the conference as a whole. When we think about the provision of religious freedom, of course, much can be said about the change that is desperately needed in the world today. It is my belief that no demographic feels the need for this change more so than women, whether they are religious or a-religious. All over the world, a culture of patriarchy gives men the license to dictate what women should and should not wear, how they should or should not live, what they should and should not do. And in every instance, the demands placed on us as women by men in power infringe upon our basic freedom to live as we choose. This is true in the case of the compulsory hijab in Iran, as much as it is of the ban on the Muslim veil in Turkish parliament and universities. The full-faced covering and ban on female drivers oppresses women in Saudi Arabia just as much as the niqab ban oppresses women in France who might choose to wear the niqab. As women, if we are to support one another in our struggles, we should and we must form a bond of sisterhood born out of our shared experiences of oppressive patriarchy, and as a consequence, raise our voices in unison to oppose the stripping away of the basic freedom of women everywhere. Moreover, we must do so with consistency and without double standards. I feel the need to mention consistency here because as we enter a post-secular age, especially in the West, it seems increasingly, at least to me as a religious woman, that there is greater sympathy for the freedoms of a-religious women than there is for the religious. So where Western feminists are eager to protest the forced veiling of a-religious women in the East, they make little comment on the forced unveiling of religious women in the West. This, to me, is reflective of a double standard, and the eradication of this double standard must be an essential component of any change as we move forward. Before I proceed, I must confess that I cannot, with my lack of knowledge and wisdom and experience, stand here and claim to know the answer to how this double standard can be eradicated in the interest of a movement that equitably promotes freedom of religion for women everywhere. All I can do is share my own observations as to an approach that would facilitate mutual respect among women, both within intra as well as interfaith contexts. Perhaps the words mutual respect are in themselves worth reflecting upon here. Too often, we look at the practices of other women, even as religious women ourselves, with disdain, with pity, and sometimes even with downright contempt, as though it is our prerogative, our right, to place normative judgments and criticisms upon those other women, even though we would detest having the same judgment placed from someone else upon ourselves. In no situation is this more evident than the case of Muslim women who choose to wear the niqab, the full-faced veil. Following on from the heated niqab debate, which took place in the UK last summer, niqab-wearing women were subjected to public insults which included comparisons to bin bags and the Ku Klux Klan by groups as disparate as white non-Muslim politicians as well as other Muslim women. How unfortunate that more of us did not at that point stop to consider the agency of niqab-wearing women in choosing to wear the niqab, nor their inalienable right to free expression of their religion in what claims to be a liberal society. Because the right to express our religious beliefs is not something, in my belief, and I'm pretty sure that people present here will agree with me, is not something that is granted by governments or by people, but is something that every individual is born with and cannot be taken away. What is it then, one might ask, that can cause us, even as liberal religious women, to so easily lose sight of that all-important mutual respect and to become so intolerant and so critical of other religious women? It is in the answer to this question that lies the key to the eradication of the double standard I mentioned earlier. The answer, in a word, is us. We make ourselves intolerant by positioning ourselves as us and other women as them. We are the ones who turn them into the other in opposition to us as the self. And we allow our lens, our perspective, be it Western, secular, Arab, Christian, etc., to inform our judgments of the practices of other religious women. We make our norms and our beliefs the standard to which all others must adhere and aspire. And then we use the standard to place expectations upon other women for acceptance and validation. I remember the time when an Anglican reverend, extremely active in interfaith work in the UK, asked me why conservative Muslims preferred not to shake hands with the opposite sex. It's not sexual, he insisted, and he was very exasperated because he just couldn't understand it. It didn't seem to matter to him that the choice of Muslims to not shake hands with the opposite sex did not bring any harm upon anyone or infringe upon the rights of anyone else. The underlying implication just seemed to be Muslims behave differently. Well, that needs to change. It is almost as though we are unable to accept someone else's beliefs as valid and worthy of respect unless they are compromised, even if ever so slightly, to become a bit more agreeable to us and a bit more similar to our own beliefs and practices. Our lens is the problem. And if we are indeed going to work towards a fair movement that equitably promotes religious freedom for women everywhere, our lens is what needs to change. We must cease to judge others from our own normative standards and instead begin to embrace the differences wholeheartedly, no matter how alien they might appear to us. The free expression of difference is not only a liberal tenet, but is in fact facilitated by the golden rule which so many faiths agree upon: to do unto others as you would like done to you. We cannot, after all, ever all be the same. The sooner we are able to accept this and treat others, including those who are different to us, as we would like to be treated, the closer we will be to a world where mutual respect and religious freedom are available to all, with consistency and without double standards. Thank you.